getting it.
Great. Alexa, are you doing the housekeeping right today?
Yeah, I will be reading the housekeeping. All right, welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Rules Committee meeting. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin at 12:05 today. We're using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. To use the raise hand feature by phone, dial *9 on your phone's dial pad to raise your hand, and use the same to lower your hand. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. Going forward, all Legal Services Trust Fund, Commission, and Committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference, and please be aware of your surroundings behind you. Troubleshooting. Tip: for those using Zoom on a computer, when on mute, holding down the space bar will temporarily unmute. If you use your phone to dial into this meeting, please be sure your computer's microphone is on mute to avoid audio feedback issues. While joining audio via computer is highly recommended, if an individual loses audio, they can call in separately using the Zoom conference number.
Great. Thanks, Alexa. And hi, Jim. Nice to see you again. Why don't we do a roll call? And then we can get going.
And before we do a roll, I just want to welcome everyone. And this is our first Rules Committee meeting of the new term. I want to thank Erica for agreeing to chair the Rules Committee. And I think it's going to be a really another productive year for us. So welcome, everyone.
I'm excited.
Great. Connolly?
Here.
Al-Saraf? Fightmaster? Blakemore?
Here.
Boschelli?
Here.
Campbell? Galkin?
Present.
Meeker?
Here.
So we do not have quorum. Hold on, let me just count one more time because we have 8 in our committee, and so we need 5, and we only have 4, so we do not have quorum.
I think we have 5 now.
Do we?
You should have 5.
On the roll call? Hold on, can I do that one more time?
You have Blakemore, Conley, Boschelli, Galkin, and Meeker.
How come it's, it didn't? You know, this auto, you guys can't see it, but I have an auto calculate sheet and it did not calculate. It showed 4. I apologize for that. So can
One of us doesn't count. Technology is not perfect.
Okay, I'll hand it back to you, Erica.
Do you want to do any roll call as far as liaisons and staff?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Bonnie's not here. Melanie, Selena.
Selena's present.
And then State Bar staff. Elizabeth's not here. Alexa, is Brady on? And Laura, you're joining on behalf of the Judicial Council. Okay, great.
Great. And I guess the first thing we'll do is public comment. Kim, do you know if there's anyone, members of the public?
Nobody's indicating they want to speak.
Okay. In case anyone's just there without us knowing, if there's anyone who would like to make any public comment, now is the time. And obviously we allow for public comment, but we sometimes will limit the time. But seeing no hands raised or anything, we'll move on. Since we have quorum, I guess we can move to number 4, the approval of the minutes. And one thing I wanted to just flag for folks as a reminder, and this is particularly pertinent to me, you can vote on the minutes even if you weren't at the meeting. I personally was absent at the last 2 meetings. You're basically voting that you have confidence that the minutes were taken accurately. But before we take a motion or anything, are there any comments or concerns about either of the minutes or the summary, action summaries? I remember what they're called now, minutes.
And I'll just make a comment if you haven't noticed. The State Bar has a new action summary template, and that's why it looks slightly different. We're moving to shorter narratives. We took actually a modified approach. XCOM approved this this format in that it's a little bit lengthier than if you go to the Board of Trustees meeting. They're a lot shorter. They only take minutes of the action, like the motions are passed. We give a little bit more detail as an in-between, just because it's easier to look at the minutes than it is to go and view the recording. but it doesn't have the level of detail that you're used to. And with the Rules Committee, I think, you know, can always refer back to the memos that are very detailed.
Great. Thanks, Dawn. And does anyone else have any comments on either the new template or anything with the actual content of the minutes?
Do you wish to have a motion to approve both at the same time or separately? Both at the same time?
Unless there's issues, I think that would be the most efficient.
So it's Catherine will make a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. Second. No one wants to do it. I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, do roll call. Connolly,
Yes.
Al-Saraf, Fightmaster, Blakemore,
Yes.
Bushelli,
Yes.
Campbell, Galkin,
Based on Erica's comment, I'll say yes.
Meeker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Right. We've got this, that issue has come up multiple times, so it's good to kind of do a reminder every once in a while. that it's
I'm
okay.
usually one to abstain when I'm not there, but I do have confidence, so under those
Yeah.
terms, I'm happy to support.
It feels like we're honoring Bob Planthold with that reminder.
Yeah. Yes, very good point. Those are the motions to adjourn at the end. Are both good. Those are good memories of him. All right, now we can move, I guess, on to the 2023 work plan. So I'll turn it over to Dawn.
Great. And I sent out this morning the proposed dates for 2023. Let me just share my screen once more. You don't have to let me know this minute if there's conflict. Just send me an email in the next couple of days. I know it's sometimes difficult to get 100% participation every meeting, so it's fine if you need to miss one or two. We'll reschedule it if we're not close to quorum, is the only thing. So let me just share my screen. And we kept in line with kind of the last couple of years where the meetings have been on a Thursday from noon to 3. So I guess I'll just broadly ask, does that generally work for most people? And again, you don't have to pull out your calendar, but because I know for some, depending some years, like the committee would rather have it on a different day. We just, Erica and I just kind of kept in line with that. This what happened this year.
Yeah, I will say Tuesdays and Thursdays are really challenging for me and the commission meets then, but I will do my best to make both of them work. So
Oh.
I do childcare those days
Okay.
it really starts at noons when I pick kids up from school. So, but it's fine. I'd let you know one date that I can't do
Yes.
because I'm on vacation.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine.
I have no objection to considering other days if there's an efficient way of doing that. Just putting that out there.
Erica, I leave it up to you. Like,
I mean, the only thing I'll just, I also don't have a problem considering, but I do want to be cognizant of the fact that I know staff kind of has to run between lots of committee meetings. So I just don't want to, run into too many of the other ones, because I know the commission's usually doing theirs on Fridays, and then Catherine, I guess EB&R is usually right before the commission on Friday. So I don't, but if like a Wednesdays generally work, like my schedule is reasonably flexible. But I will say, Dawn, I defer to you because I know staff schedule is a little maybe complicated.
this is like a good time to start scheduling because we're like, moving, like, so if a Wednesday is better, then I can, what I can do, if that's kind of the direction we want to go in, look at our admin calendar and the committee, the meetings from the other committees, and see if they're on a Wednesday, and I can just do like a Wednesday before, like say instead of the 23rd.
Yeah, the 22nd.
22nd.
Selena?
I just did a quick check, and I also would support Wednesdays. I feel like Wednesdays are better. I feel like Fridays sometimes are so tough because it conflicts with the full commission meetings and it's Friday. But there is a conflict, I think, on April 26th. Eligibility and budget is currently holding that Wednesday morning. So that would be a long day if you were on both E&B and rules revision. But I didn't see any other conflicts from my first pass of what I'm aware of.
Okay. Thanks, Selena. Catherine, would Wednesdays, other than the 26th, which you have EB&R, and there may be other ones on EB&R. I happen to know Catherine's on it. Would Wednesdays work better for you?
I mean, I haven't looked at the specific date, so I can do that and maybe just put something in chat. And really, if it doesn't work, it's fine. I will do my best to make it work. The February 22nd is fine, but I don't want to take up people's time right now. So
No, I'll do a swoop after this because I actually have we were preparing for the commission meeting. There's one of the items is to put all the meeting dates on there, and I'll just see if there aren't a lot of conflicts, then yeah, we'll just maybe move it to Wednesday. And if there are, then maybe we keep it at Thursday. I'll send everybody a quick email.
Okay,
Later
thanks,
today.
Dawn.
No
And
problem.
thanks for the feedback, Catherine. We can adjust.
Yeah, we have a small, and and this is why I appreciate doing it now because I know people's calendars are still relatively.
okay, and the Wednesdays, all the Wednesdays work. So
Okay,
I was able to
great.
do that. Since
Okay,
we
so
were.
I will.
Thank you
drop
for
it.
checking. And honestly, if it doesn't work, I will make
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the meeting schedule. So let me share the proposed work plan that was posted, and then I think Erica and I will walk everybody through it because we use shorthand for some of the topics just to get everybody a little bit more information about each of the issues. And then if there are topics that, you know, a lot of us are on different committees, that there's like an issue that maybe we want to add to the work plan either this year or moving forward, we can always do that now or just at any time during the year. We don't need to formally vote on this work plan. The other committees actually don't have work plans. We just use this kind of as a tool to help us plan. And some of these topics, as you for the folks that have been on for the last couple of years, we've had to modify or expand or limit or move around things. So again, it's a guide for us, and we can always modify as we go along. But you know, I find it really helpful, and the staff finds it helpful to have something to kind of work towards. Okay, so with that, let me share, and I have a Word version so we can kind of work through it together. And if you want to modify, we could do that as we go along. Can you all see this? And is the size okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so before we get to 2023, I just want to go over that we have 6 topics that we've completed at least the commission level. So just as a reminder, especially Jason, since you're new to the rules committee, is that the rules committee you know, works in working groups, and then we bring proposals to the commission. The commission then, you know, will approve or send it back to the rules committee. So we have 6 topics that we've been working on for the last 2 years that the commission has approved, and now we're packaging them as a set to go to the board of trustees. So Erica, Karen, I think Erica's on this. Erica and I are presenting on these 6 topics at the board meeting next week. And at that time, what we ask is that the board of trustees send it out for formal public comment, for a 60-day formal public comment. The board of trustees, they have changed their practice in rulemaking. It used to be that we can go at any time at any of their kind of board meetings to do ask for a rule change. Now they're streamlining all rulemaking now. We only have 2 opportunities per year to do that, which is the November board meeting and the May board meeting. So if we miss anything on the November meeting, we have to unfortunately wait until the May meeting. So we're going to ask the board to send it out, these 6 topics for a 60-day public comment. If it all goes well and we don't have a lot of public comment, it'll still go in May. And if there are lots of public comments, it'll come back to the rules committee and the trust fund commission to consider that, and then make a recommendation then to the board in May. So this is the first time we've taken our package to the board, so I don't know what to anticipate. As you all know, we get preliminary feedback through the Legal Aid Association of California. Our memos, before they even go to the rules committee, the working group does share it with LAC, so that we can, you know, we can see what the feedback is. And a lot of times we do integrate the feedback and we take all those feedback into consideration. And a lot of times we do adopt it and modify our recommendations based on that. Not all the time. Sometimes we don't agree with what has been proposed, but I think for the most part, we do try to work with the community and LAC to integrate those feedback. So we don't anticipate, you know, a lot of opposition, but we don't know because it's the first time we're doing. So I'll keep everyone posted once the 60-day period closes. If there's a high volume of feedback, then depending on the timing, we might want to roll in an agenda item at the rules committee meeting before we take it to the commission to see how we want to handle it. but we'll probably have to kind of play it by ear a little bit, depending on like the volume and the type of public comments that we get back. So we're really excited. You know, Erica and I were compiling, and Erica did most of the heavy lift for this. And the attachments, it's like 200 or 300 pages, and we're reviewing all the memos, and it's just like kind of really amazing the work that we've done, the thought and the care that have been kind of put into each one of these topics. And I remember when we set out to kind of do the work in the rules committee, we had thought we could do it in a year. And what we've learned is, you know, this is definitely a multi-year process. It's very long and it's very involved, but I think it's a really good process in how we do it. Obviously, there's room for tweaks and improvement. So as we go along in the year, you know, if there are things that are working or not working, please, we encourage you to share it with Erica and I, and we can modify along the way. One modification that I do want to draw your attention to is that the working groups in the past have been comprised of both rules committee members as well as non-rules committee members, so members of the commission at large. We found that hasn't worked the greatest because it was hard to plug in a non-rules committee member into the process. And they also have other responsibilities on the other subcommittee that it felt like a big ask. So I think what we've decided to do, and we're open to this feedback, is to have really the committee members be the rules committee member, unless it's like a holdover from a topic that they've already been on, or there's like a really specific need because we don't have the substantive expertise or we need it, then we can reach out. But I think that might make things a little bit smoother, help with scheduling, and help with the engagement. So I guess I'll pause there to see if there are any comments about kind of that change in process before we get into the topics. And Selena, I see your hand raised.
Well, I wanted to, before this, when you were talking about the Board of Trustees memo that's coming up, I just want to compliment that memo. I thought it was very, very well organized. And it's like the first 6 pages or so is the real great summary. And I was downloading the document. It's huge, but I actually think that staff did a really amazing job of just summarizing the, knowing that the Board of Trustees may not read the entire 200-page document, you really signposted what were the most important things and what needed a lot of community input. So I wanted to recognize the work of State Bar staff, because that was a ton of work. And your work shows in the fact that it's going to be so easy for Board of Trustees to approve.
Oh, thank you for that. I can't take the credit. Erica Carroll really took the heavy lift on drafting that. But you know what I can do is, if people haven't had a chance, I'll send it out, that memo, because I believe it's posted if you've seen it, Selena. And Will.
Yeah, sweet. This might be a silly question since I don't really understand the process, but is there any way, given the streamlined process of the Board of Trustees, to publish the rule for comment earlier? Or does it have, you know, once the commission approves it? Or does it have to go to the Board of Trustees to be published for public comment?
It has to go, because that's our formal process. It's a recommendation from the commission to send these out for public comments. So we.
Oh, okay. I guess I thought it had changed from recommendations to now we make an approval and they can object. I thought that's how the statute changed.
So technically, the change is that if they find that a recommendation of the commission conflicts with what is it, legal, fiduciary, or contractual obligation, then they can overturn it. But we don't anticipate that.
Okay.
And actually, in the memo, we say that you know, unless you do.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. I was just thinking of like trying to move the process forward so rules can be implemented quicker. But if that's the process, that's the process.
So I just one question. So then when it goes out for public comment, what is the standard of receiving comments, right? So if this is the Board of Trustees public comment period, it's not the commissions. So is the standard for public comment then the same as the Board of Trustees, which is you have to show it meets one of those 3 things? Because otherwise it honestly seems kind of duplicative of the good work the commission actually on some of these did twice through focus groups and a legal aid public comment period. So I think it's worth clarifying, like when it goes out for public comment, what are people supposed to be commenting on? They don't like the rule for the following reasons, or they don't like the rule because they believe it violates one of those standards.
Yeah, and this is when they're commenting on whether they like the rule in general, like in the rule, you know.
But why? Because the Board of Trustees couldn't reject the rule because somebody didn't like it. They can only reject the rule if it meets that criteria. And I mean, I just think some of this is important to sort out because the legislature took such tremendous care and they actually, focus on like, what is the commission's relationship with the bar and not wanting that to kind of be muddied, I think.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're into a little bit of a muddy area if the public comment is sort of this broader standard.
And I think when we spoke about it at the commission level, that we were generally adopting kind of the process. And this is why I think I would encourage us to use this to kind of like figure out the process, because we haven't formally sent it out for public comment, but it's only been through LAC. So this will be an opportunity also for non-IOLTA programs. And maybe there are other interested stakeholders to make a formal public comment. And that's when, if that happens, and there are things that maybe we didn't consider, that's when I would bring those public comments back to the rules committee to then make a recommendation of what we want to do differently for that.
Yeah, I guess then I'm saying if there's I just think it's important to think about the process in light of the statutory changes.
Mhm.
So the board has a much narrower role
Yeah.
than it had before.
Exactly.
And so maybe the solution is that it goes out for public comment, as Will was suggesting,
Mhm.
from the commission before it goes to the board, so that all of those, I don't like the definition of civil legal services because of X or Y, we take care of that prior to the submission to the board, who then has this sort of a narrow review standard, right? Are we violating a fiduciary duty, etc., as opposed to potentially having to sort of start that whole process over again, right? Which is just, particularly given the November, May, it has this potential to kind of delay things. And I think it's, I guess just speaking, from my understanding of the legislative action, it was to have let the commission have greater autonomy with this narrow review. So I guess I'm encouraging that we think about like what that process should look like, which I think might be different than what is done with other rules that the Board of Trustees has a lot more discretion about.
Erica, I'll defer to you on how you want to move us in the direction, because when we had discussed at the commission that and we're certainly in light of this, if you want to make another recommendation as a committee to change the process, I'll have to say though, it's easy, at least for on the staff side, to plug into the public comment period, because it's like, it's set up, they do it a certain way, but that's not to say we can't do our own. And if that's the direction the commission and the rules committee wants to move in, we're happy to kind of figure out that. Because right now, like the public comment the formal public comment doesn't happen like in OA and I. When we send it to the board, they post it on the website, they do all of that for us. I'm not saying that we can't, but we would need to figure out those logistical things if that's the direction we want to do in our own formal public comment.
So I guess there's a couple questions that this raises for me, which is, I take, Catherine's point about the role of the board. I guess the question to me is, does the board need to still review our proposed rules to confirm that very narrow scope before we can even put it out for public comment? I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming it's yes, but if that's not true, then we can reconsider. But if they needed to actually review the proposed rule, even if we put it out under our public comment, we're still going to need to have them take a look at it at the high level, right? Now, the question of, I'm all for the commission having more autonomy from the board. So I do think it would be probably better for us if we could figure out a system to actually publish and do public comment ourselves, and sort of keep the board in a position where it's sort of narrow, just double checking us kind of position. I will say, I don't want to not get these rules implemented in order to build the infrastructure of the commission doing public comment. So that's where I'm a little bit torn, but I don't know if maybe we could check with Brady whether they actually need to approve, like review and approve the proposed rule regardless of who actually puts out the public comment.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't-
and this is all within the bars. So I think one idea would be to use the existing mechanism for public comment that the bar has, which, seems like an official posting. I'm just
Mm.
suggesting that happen at the commission level. We have an opportunity to consider those and then could also, still report. It's just sort of a timing and being clear about what the different roles are under the statutory reconfiguration that I think is important before and honestly, I'm not suggesting you do something different now, like hear that. I think we are in the middle of a process and we should complete the process, or it's really going to delay things to switch in the middle. But I feel like this is sort of a fundamental question about implementation of a statutory change that we should be mindful of and have clarity about what the roles are. And so I guess I don't think we have to, complete the discussion today. Like it could be a smaller group of us that work on, here's some ways we could do it and come back to the rules committee that would have to go to the full commission, I think. So maybe that's the best approach, but I just know people watch how the statute's being implemented, and I think we should think through that.
Yeah, it's a really fair point. And I think the biggest question for me is just what legally we have to have the Board of Trustees review and what we don't have to have them review.
Mm.
And if they have to review proposed rules before we put them out for comment, then this process is sort of already, we can sort of be more thoughtful about the comment part. But maybe that's a Brady question.
Yeah, that's probably a Brady question. I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if it's because it's actually the state bar rules and not like our rules that we're setting out, that if there's like more limitation, I just don't know. So what we can do is we can confer with Brady, and I like Catherine's suggestion is maybe there are a couple people on the rules committee that can work with myself and Brady and Erica to kind of figure this out. Next week, we have an agenda item to talk about the rules committee work plan. We can certainly bring it up there, but I don't know if that will give us enough time between now and next week.
I really think we should be more thoughtful about what we're suggesting and just work through it. And I hear Erica say, like, it is entirely possible the board needs a public comment period as part of its rulemaking. I just think that public comment period then becomes the same standard that the board has the authority to approve or disapprove on, right? And so I just think we just have to lay it and think it through.
This is what the FCC does. So when they get rules from like FINRA, they publish them for public comment, but they're very deferential below. So there is some precedence for a sort of fairly independent but subordinate not subordinate, subsidiary type of agency with review at the higher level, because the underlying agency's ability to do public comments a little bit more complicated. So, but it sounds like maybe what we can do for now is let the process sort of go forward as it is, and then have Brady provide us with his guidance on exactly how this would be, and then we can have a further discussion about what plan we want to implement, and then sort of tell the board, here's why.
Yeah, have a discussion with them. Here's what we think the process should be like going forward. And if there's a desire to have a small group discussion, I'm happy to participate in that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Catherine. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Thanks for raising that, Will.
No, thank you.
You guys said it all so much better, but
No, not really. I thought you did a great job.
I agree that one thing that it occurred to me was it would be really nice to have that feedback come back to the commission itself, instead of if somebody raised something that was a really excellent point but it didn't cross that threshold, then we would have to figure out how to not implement the rule that we asked. I don't know. So yes, I'm looking forward.
So let me back up. Even though even if we say the board can't overturn our final rule based on these very like high standards, that doesn't prevent us from taking in public comment and reconsidering how we want to address the rule. Like, that's what we should be doing. Is like, the whole point of the public comment is to inform us. So we can take it and decide
Okay.
that we want to revise it or tweak it or justify why we think the final rule ought to be as it is. It's just whether the board, in its ability to approve or disapprove the final rule, if we say, look, the comments, we hear them, but this is why we are doing it this way, does the board get to say, no, we disagree, we think the comments are more important and you have to go back and change it? Or do they have to say, even if we disagree, it's not against the law, so. And I think that's, but yes, we have the opportunity to take those comments. We will have access to them and to revisit the rules if necessary. Sorry,
All right,
Jason.
thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, of course. Jason, go ahead.
I don't want to belabor this issue, but 2 points, one more flip than the other. So the first one that's flip is, it sounds like we need a rulemaking breakout committee to talk about the topic of public comment, and we maybe need to add that to our list. The non-flip comment is coming from, the judicial branch side of things in the council. Like, when there's rulemaking or policy making decisions that go up through the committees, the committee posts for public comment, gets public comment, and then usually before it is submitted for the agenda on the judicial council level to vote on, has an opportunity to review said public comment, reconvene to make adjustments if necessary, or provide contextual commentary to the public, responsive to the public comment, saying like, okay, we hear these comments, here's how we address them, or why we think that they're not important. And I understand Catherine's point, like there's a limited scope of, we'll call it jurisdiction for lack of a better word, in ruling on some of those things, but you can have an opportunity to provide that context. And I think from a procedural standpoint and from a time effectiveness standpoint, waiting for public comment later and then having to pull it off the agenda and then go through another cycle where you're waiting for the next rules, the next opportunity to put it on the agenda, is less efficient than having an opportunity where you put it out for public comment and you can serve it up as a complete package ready for vote and finalization. And so that allows us to then serve it, and then we know, or have a reasonable degree of confidence that, but for an exercise of the appropriate level of jurisdiction, it will be adopted. And that will have addressed all the public comments. So there won't be, you can still have public comment in that avenue, like in the second phase of that, but that public comment, in many instances won't be as substantive as what would have already been addressed, or people not liking it. We'll have, on the commission will have an opportunity to address those things and serve it up as a complete package. That's just my experience from kind of the other quasi legislative process that I get involved in. And it seems to work pretty well.
And I think that's what I'm hearing from Catherine and Will is like, yeah, if we do our own public comment, we could package it, and then all then the board needs to do is decide if it conflicts with one of those three things that it has authority to overturn. And then it's ready and packaged, I think is what.
Like I said, I think this is all a question for Brady though, and frankly, the
Yeah.
board, because if the board's not willing to approve a final rule subject to our notice and comment, like we have to have that discussion with them as well. So
I guess what I'm saying, Eric,
Yeah.
to that point is like, there's nothing I agree with your, like, ask the board and ask Brady, but I think if you can theoretically do two phases, one where as the rule developing body, right? The proposal, like, we get public comment, it doesn't preclude someone from having public comment later, like in the judicial council world, like the committee gets those, and then when it goes on the committee, on the judicial council's agenda, there's still public comment there. There's just usually way less of it because it's kind of already like people have had their opportunity to speak to the people that are working on the rules, and they know that the judicial council is really just voting or kicking it back, right? And so that's kind of the nature of how that works.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I think the only thing I'll just comment is I think that was initially the point of sort of putting all the proposed rules out to LAC and trying to generate a lot of comment there. So it isn't as if we haven't sort of gone to our known stakeholders and asked them, but I take your point, which is like, there are unknown stakeholders that may have something they want to say about this and may be unaware, and it might be worth doing that on the front end while we're working through things. And maybe taking the like our approach for lack and maybe making it a little more formalized.
Yeah.
Our discussion.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking, yeah, if we're gonna look at the process, then maybe we can revisit that. Not saying that what we do now is like, shouldn't be the way, but maybe we could just think about whether that should be formalized. If we're gonna do, I don't have an opinion, I'm just putting that out there as when we think about it in a smaller group. If we're gonna send it out for public comment to like a wider audience, do we need to have that step that we're setting out to LAC? I think it's probably yes, but maybe we can think about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's good.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
And-
That's really, really helpful.
When you guys go to the Board of Trustees, I assume you don't need to do this, but if they, we may want to just think about whether we should plant a seed that while we are doing it this way, because this is how it's been done in the past, we are cognizant of legislation and are considering whether this will be the process going forward. But we can talk about that offline.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about that strategy after. Okay. Great. So the 6th will go. I'll send you the email after with the memo. Number 7, the expungements and infraction. This was a statutory change. I mean, we're rolling it into the definition of indigency, but this just, you know, that we completed this one because we changed the statute. Yeah. Okay. So now we get into the 2023 kind of topics. And a lot of these, I have to say, probably half of them are holdovers. We've already kind of started and now we need to finish it off. The first one is the IELTS reserve policy. And we already currently have a working group right now. Erica is kind of the lead staff, but our fiscal team is really like essential in that because they're doing all the calculations. And this is to determine, it's not a reserve policy for our programs, but it's the commission's reserve policy for IELTS, our funding. Because I think there was a little bit of confusion. Are we allowing programs to create their own reserve with IELTS funds? That's not this topic. This topic is how do we determine our distribution annually and what gets held back in reserve. So I would say that working group has met a few times. They're not quite at a recommendation. I think they thought they were closer to a recommendation maybe a few months ago, but we have revisited kind of the recommendation, and Catherine's on that working group. So I don't know if Catherine wants to stay more, but there is a meeting that's, you know, the working group is meeting at least one more time this year, and we're working towards that February 23rd date. But that, I don't know at this point whether it's possible. There are a lot of there's still lots of unknowns, and we need to, we don't have quite a working recommendation yet. So Catherine, is there anything?
I would just say, I think it's been a really good process and there's lots of complexities, I think. And because it's complicated, there's just, when you look at it, you have to sort of think about intended and unintended consequences, I guess I would say, of doing it in a specific way. So we're trying to be thoughtful, and I think people are committed to, you know, working quickly to do it, but you know, it requires a fair amount of staff work to do different models so that we can have something to look at. So we're making progress.
We're making really good process. And you'll notice that on this working group, Selena's also part of the working group. And then Tammy, who's not on the rules committee, but she's in the banking world, has the two of them they've been really pivotal and essential. So it's a good working group. The next one is also holdover. Are the RP review process? Oh,
Sorry, should we hold questions about?
I don't know if you have questions. Is it okay, Erica? Can we take questions along the way?
I mean, I'd suggest you raise your hand just so that we know.
Got it.
Yeah. Just so everyone, just to make it a little more orderly, but yeah, that's fine. We can do questions as we go. It makes sense. Will.
Thank you, Erica. This is the big discussion item in May, the reserve policy. And am I correct?
Yes.
This is the one.
Well, in June is usually when the commission
June.
it has the big meeting where we talk about the IOTA distribution for the following year.
Okay, and so this is one where we argue over how much it's going to be. And would this policy replace that discussion, or is it going to be? I mean, it's a rule, so I assume it's going to replace.
Well, it would replace
discussion.
discussion, but it would help because we have an existing reserve policy now, and whether it looks like that committee is going to propose some changes to that. What it is exactly, we're not quite sure what it will be, but if it does get implemented, it will replace the current reserve policy. But we'll still have that discussion. The commission will still need to decide in June of every year, June, July of every year, the distribution for the following year. It's not going to be so formulaic that it takes out that discussion piece of it. So you'll still have discussion and consider what should be the distribution, if that makes sense.
It's more of a recommendation, not a binding rule.
It is a binding rule. It's just it's different than what it currently is.
Okay.
Right now, like so much of the discussion is in part a like prediction of what's going to happen in the future, right? So and that part is not going to go away, right? Because we're still going to have like some people are the rates going to go up? Are they going to go down? Is the economy doing well? What do we think the impact is going to be? And then based on what we think is going to happen, then, and Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong on what you guys are anticipating, then a certain policy would apply. You would hold so much, you would distribute so much, you would, do. Is that kind of what you're anticipating? Because that's kind of what we do now. We basically
they're thinking about actually a different way of thinking about the reserve policy, and not to get too much in the weeds, but right now the current policy is if you're in a rising income environment, there's this 4-step calculation where you hold back some money, you put some money in the reserves and you distribute. And when you're in a declining, like we had been in a few years, the commission has really wide latitude. I believe it's between 30 and 70% of the distribution from the previous year to make a determination. At least right now, what we think that like there should be some factors if we stay with that 30-70%. But I think that working group's actually thinking about doing a facelift of the whole entire like framing of it.
Yeah.
So not to get too much into, but yeah. So it would be a different way of looking at it, and it would hopefully guide our discussions every year. So it would be more productive and based on some factors that are agreed on and tried and tested and that we have considered, instead of being so discretionary.
And the good news is it will come to all of you, whatever month, so that you will get the chance to sort of noodle around with us about it. So perfect place to be on this committee.
Well, so if I understand, it'll come sometime before the 23rd or February the 23rd.
If we're on target, I think.
If we're on target, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm hopeful we can do that, and if not, then it'll get pushed out to April probably.
That
so
certainly makes sense.
This date here, this third column, is the date that it's going to be presented to the Rules Committee. So we do end up changing from the Thursday to the Wednesday, then I'll modify these dates slightly. But generally, so this will be like our first meeting of the year. We'll have the next 2 topics to go. And then the Rules Committee will consider it, and then it'll go through the process, right? Then it'll go to the commission, and then from there we'll figure out the public comment and the board piece. Okay. So the next topic we have is also another holdover topic that was started about a year and a half ago. And we actually, that group put a pin in it because when it first started was when we started receiving more discretionary grant. So there was a preliminary recommendation at that time to adopt a scoring rubric. And then in that original recommendation was they had this categories of those scoring rubrics kind of defined. But then as we were doing it, and Jim is on that working group, so he please feel free to chime in. That working group decided, let's have it play out in a couple cycles of discretionary grants to see if we want to modify the recommendation. And that's why this committee, this working group has decided to put a hold on that. And we would like to take it up next year, because since then we've had at least kind of 7 rounds of various kind of discretionary grants where we've learned a lot from that. I believe that working group is still going to recommend that the commission adopt a scoring rubric for each of the discretionary grants, but they're moving towards less of this category. You have to adopt this definition. And I think the big takeaway from the last few years is it's hard to anticipate what like legislation will say or what form the discretionary. So they're going to have like these general categories and some suggested language, but it's not going to be so prescriptive that we have to kind of adopt language in those. That's kind of the movement. And we're hoping to, again, bring that to you all in February. Okay. The next topic that will go for our April meeting is IOLTA formula and out of county determinations. So, you know, as you all know, we're required to run a formula to determine IOLTA and EF grants. The nitty gritty though of the formula, I think is something that has not been kind of transparent to the community and the commission. There are certain junctures where it has required some judgment on the part of staff. I think we are doing it right, but this will bring transparency to how we actually run the formula. One thing, for instance, is that we use the poverty data based on the American Census Survey, but there's like different versions of that. We use the 5-year average, and what we've been told is that's the gold standard. But again, because there's some judgment in it and it's not a visible process, we would like to codify how we run the formula. There's some other instances in terms of like how we round out, and we round out from 5 decimal points, and we'll get more into the nitty gritty of that. But it does kind of make an impact, right? In terms of if you round out at 2 or if you round out at 8, there's going to be slight variations in the allocation. And then there's also some rounding up situations because some counties get really small percentage, and then in those instances there are also some judgment calls in terms of rounding. So you'll get, and I don't think this is going to be that piece of it is going to be that controversial, because I think the formula actually we do a really good job, and you'll have visibility in how we check to make sure that it's right and that the commission feels very comfortable in kind of in the process. The piece I think that is a little bit trickier is this what's called out of county determinations, meaning that so programs have to apply per county in order to get an allocation, but the office practice actually has been to allow in instances for programs to account expenditures in a county that they're actually not getting an allocation in, and we let programs we spread that. Say they're have $100,000 worth of out of county expenditures, we kind of just spread that out through all the counties that they're getting allocation in. There's a question of whether we should be doing that, and then first, if we should be doing that, is that the kind of the procedure that we should? I think it is going to be a little bit tricky because enabling programs to kind of do that does incentivize some of these programs to go out and serve maybe a rural area, rural. It does somewhat distort the formula. It doesn't keep it completely pure, and that's why this piece is going to be a little bit tricky. And you'll notice on the right hand side, Jim used to be on this working group. Jim has a lot of work groups, and we're with Catherine's consent, we're going to swap Jim out with Catherine. Okay. And please, Erica, I don't have visibility to, like, if anybody has questions or comments, just let me know. Okay.
I definitely will. No hands were raised.
Okay, great. The next one is the functional matrix, and this one is a little bit of a unique topic because, and the functional matrix is what this matrix that was adopted during the Appendix I stakeholder review process that kind of lays out the roles and functions of the Board of Trustees versus the Commission versus the staff. We decided last year that we would update it in light of SB 211. And this is really supposed to meant as kind of a guiding document for the commission. Each of the respective committees are working on a piece to plug into this document that lays out kind of what the role of that respective committee and what the authority of that respective committee is. So it's really a kind of a working document for the commission. Originally, we were going to bring it back to the commission to vote on, but I think it would be worthwhile to bring it back to the rules committee to take a look at before we take it out, bring it to the commission, just to make sure that we have thought through everything and it's not just myself, Amin, and Erica. And also, we also need to decide then when we meet about this functional matrix, whether we want to send it out for public comment and go through formal rulemaking, or if that's just kind of a document that's just, you know, the commission uses it for their orientation and to guide them. So that's why that one's a little bit unique. The next topic is fee generating work and contingency fee arrangements. So the statute requires that programs have to provide free legal services, and then there's a prohibition about if programs are engaging in fee generating work and contingency fee arrangements, but there are some exceptions. It's not quite clear. We don't have a really workable definition. This is a really technical topic, and Brady has offered to kind of take it on, and Rahul is another attorney in OGC to kind of take it on as a draft, a preliminary recommendation from OGC to the committee with some recommendations. So that one, I think we will still share it with Black, but Erica has kind of offered to review that memo to see kind of when the kind of the processes that we should follow for that one. Are there any thoughts on that before I move to June? Okay. So then the next one, this is also another carryover topic around carryovers and budget modifications. This one is this topic. I don't know if you originally remember, but we actually were going to combine it with the indirect cost because there are some issues around law school and indirect costs. But that working group, I believe, is going to separate that out and make them two topics again. And that's why it's a somewhat the same working group members on it. Danielle's still leading it, and Jim, Will, and Erica on the carryover, but an indirect cost instead of Will, it'll be Louisa. And then law school clinical programs. So as you all know, the statute does provide for two different types of grantees, QSPs and support centers, but within the QSPs, there's a carve out for law school clinical programs. It doesn't quite define, and they don't actually call, the statute doesn't call it law school clinical programs, they call it an identifiable law school unit, and there's not really a great definition of what that is. The commission has adopted some factors, so we'll want to kind of revisit those factors and see if we should codify them, and there are kind of other slew of kind of technical changes related to the law school clinical programs. Then at the August meeting, we're actually hoping, we haven't yet dealt with any support center issues, so we're hoping to really use the majority of the August meeting to make headway into the support center issues. And then one of them that's is a priority, and that's why we separated them, is this defining significant support services. So, you know, the support centers have a primary purpose requirement, but they also have a requirement around providing significant support services to the QSPs and the legal aid community. It's somewhat defined in the guidelines, but it's not clearly defined. So we'll have to figure out a way to make that more clear in terms of what's like a minimum threshold of significant level. This deeming topic, that's also for support centers. This topic is actually the very first topic that we dealt with in the rules committee, but at the time it was decided that, you know, we can't decide this deeming of support centers kind of in a vacuum. So they want that working group had decided that they wanted to wait until the support centers issues were up to talk about it in conjunction with one another. And Will, I don't believe you were on that original working group, and I don't believe Amin was either. So it will be a new, it's a carryover, and there's a working definition, but we'll kind of need to start from scratch on that one. And then this other support center issues is kind of a little bit of a catch-all because there are a lot of kind of support center issues, and so it'll be up to that working group to kind of prioritize it and see if we can handle it all in one meeting. I don't know if we will be though. And then pro bono allocation. I don't know if you all recall, we actually did have 2 or 3 committee meetings regarding this, and I would say we're about 75% done, but there are a lot of pending issues to this. We had some staff turnover, and so that's why we haven't been able to staff it, but definitely I think next year we should finish out the pro bono allocation because it's been about a year now since we revisited it. And then the indirect costs, this actually came out of the law school clinical program issue, but we decided to make it its own topic because it does have kind of wider implications for all the programs. And then the fiscal issues. So, oh, sorry, go ahead, Will.
Sorry, I was trying to find the raise hand button.
No problem, go ahead.
Indirect costs, is this the famed administrative and overhead costs as well?
Yes, yes. Yes, so it might not be called indirect costs. We're just using that short term. That working group might decide to call it something else because there's some terminological kind of challenges that we're using terminology that is not widely used. And so, but yeah, that's that working group, the overhead. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. And then fiscal issues. So I don't know if you're all aware. So we have guidelines for our QSPs, a set of guidelines for support centers. We also have standards of financial management that we provide for our grantees. So we're hoping to actually bring this as a package, because there's that document it's quite lengthy. I want to say it's over 20 pages, maybe it might be more than that, to tackle all the fiscal issues in kind of a package, because when we looked at it, to break it up seems like it's its own kind of committee. So we want to do it in one swoop if possible. So this is a very, very heavy topic. I just want to point that out for Erica and Jason, because the universe of this is large. So I think if you guys are both amenable to joining this, what I would recommend, I already talked to kind of staff, they're doing a work plan for just this topic to itemize all the things. And then we meet maybe early January to prioritize the topics. And hopefully we can get them all done. But if not, then at least we have a priority list of what we want to work towards for the October meeting. And then this one, Erica had pointed out, this is actually was ready for the Board of Trustees, but we had some staff changeover, so we didn't catalog it correctly. So that's why we have to wait until the next Board of Trustees. This one is the pass-through and exchange funds is actually finished at the commission level. And then here are a few topics moving into 2024 that we'll deal with, which is one of them is administration. Another one is quality controls, like what are proper quality controls for a program. Right now, the statute and our rules say that they need to have like proper quality controls and internal controls, but we don't really define what that means. And so sometimes we go on monitoring visits and we know that there's a program that's not quite up to standard, but because we don't have anything to outline and like clarity, we can't kind of provide either a finding or a recommendation of something more because there's not kind of that clarity there. This purchase of real property also is an existing policy that's really vague and convoluted. It also needs to be revised at some point. And this last one is, and there's a question mark here because it's actually a technical change. Right now, the state bar rules say that we use the ABA's 2006 version when we go out on our monitoring visits and we hold our programs accountable. The ABA actually just updated its rule a few months ago. So there's 2021 version of it. So Brady thinks that we don't actually need to go through like the whole process again. It will still need to go to the board, or maybe if depending on what the commission decides, maybe the commission itself can just adopt it as swapping out the 2006 to 2022 version of it. So this one, that's why this is unassigned. Catherine.
Thank you. I just wonder for that, if it would not be better just to say the current version adopted by the ABA. So every time there's a revision, you have to go back, particularly if it requires some approval. So anyway, just a thought.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think we should do that. Thank you. Okay. So
Well,
that's all I have. I know that's, oh, go ahead, sorry. I was gonna say, I know that's a lot of information. If you all want to kind of sit with it and then look at your schedules, see if it's workable, and then just get back to me and I'll share it with Erica if you want to make any modifications to these suggestions. Again, Erica and I kind of met and we just, as like a starting point, provided suggestions for all the working groups. But if there's an area that you think your skill set might be better utilized, or if your availability kind of doesn't lend itself towards, you know, the date around these working towards the committee meetings, then let us know, and we'll try our best to make the modification happen.
Yep. Thank you, Dawn, and for the information. Sorry, Will's got his hand raised. Then I'll make my statement.
Oh no, you can go. All right. Sorry, now I was expecting to wait till after you were done. Recollecting here. I was wondering about our processes on a couple of these where, for example, we got into the legal, the law clinic stuff, and also on the reserve policy. And I know that after our June meeting, for example, I had a wonderful discussion with Eric about our reserve policy and its purpose and all of that. And I wonder if there are some issues that would be helpful to have a brief conversation on values and certain issues that members have prior to work groups diving in. So for example, the law schools, I know that one really difficult thing to solve, and maybe it's not going to be part of my working group anymore, was the amount allocated for overhead, whether we wanted it to be 25%, 35%, or 45%, and the consequences of that. And honestly, getting the feedback from this entire group on something that's likely to be, if not contentious, have a lot of impact on what happens going into the future. I think it would be helpful to preview that at some shorter meeting and say, hey, so here are the consequences of this. This is what's going to happen. And what do you guys think? What brilliant ideas do you have to resolve this?
So Will, are you talking about other commissioners? Are you talking about like the stakeholders like LAC? Because we send the memos out to LAC and get feedback from them as we're going through this. So if there's going to be some kind of sting from the stakeholders, they're going to obviously have an opportunity. But are you anticipating a different group?
Yeah, I was talking about other commissioners primarily. You know, making sure that we got that feedback, especially, for example, the reserve policy. They're doing a lot of work. The working group is obviously, and I'm wondering if there is any value in having a conversation about sticking points before all that work has been done. You know, that's usually how I think in my my other job, it's like, well, let's have a get together and do some ideation and talk about where we kind of want to go in values, and then go hammer out details. But I'll let everyone else speak.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Let Jim respond. And then I have some thoughts on, I take your point on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the issue of stakeholders in the law school clinic programs. That's part of the problem, is that they don't really participate with LAC. They're kind of independent. And we also have certain rules, like with the UC has certain rules on overhead with state grants that all UCs have to follow. And their definition of what overhead is versus our definition of overhead is slightly different. So, I mean, I agree with Will. I mean, the committee as a whole probably should discuss these things, but maybe the subgroup needs to actually outline those issues so that we can discuss them. And the issue of stakeholders, we're kind of at a loss because there is no stakeholder group of law school clinics.
Right. Okay, thank you. Duan and then Catherine.
Yeah, you know, some of the working groups have been kind of really creative in getting feedback, like the working group around a definition of civil legal services. There was like focus groups, like several of them, to get kind of feedback, so it wouldn't be kind of through that, because we wanted to hear the feedback directly and ask questions and engage in a dialogue. And I did suggest through the staff, Jim, for the law school clinical program one, that you might want to have a focus group of those 5 law schools that we provide funding to, so that there's not just an email exchange, that like Jim, you and Will can meet with them and get all your questions answered and engage in that back and forth. And I think at the next meeting, you guys can talk about that. In terms of the feedback, Will, from your colleagues, you know, I guess my thought was the rules committee, that's the purpose of it. And so that's why the work plan is a little bit aspirational, because there have been instances where we've come back to the rules committee and, you know, we had such good discussion that then that the working group then got sent back with a little bit more research to do, more things to think about before we finalized that. If we did it outside of the rules committee, my only concern is Bagley-Keene. We can certainly call another meeting or another grouping, but if we hit a Bagley-Keene, we would need to notice it. And that's why we were keeping these working groups at around 2 or 3 to not trigger Bagley-Keene. But if there's a way you think that would be helpful, you know, we're certainly open to it. I'm just, I don't know if you are suggesting to carve out more rules committee meeting or to do it more informal. I don't know.
Should I answer or wait for Catherine and Erica? I don't want to cut
Yeah,
anybody off.
I'm sorry. I just need to say, I thought this meeting was until 1 and I unfortunately have a conflict. So I didn't want to just disappear, which seemed rude, and there's no chat. So that's why my hand was up. So I will see you all later. Have a lovely Thanksgiving if you're celebrating. Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
And I do apologize. I shortened this meeting from 3 hours to 1 hour. I think it would be 1 hour. So Erica, we are 10 minutes over, so I leave it up to you.
Okay.
And I didn't want to.
I just want to sort of wanted to make one point on, or a couple of points on this. First off, the working groups, I will say, like, one of the values of them is that they can be creative and flexible. So please don't feel like you're constrained. If you want to go talk to different stakeholders, if you think there's other people that might be valuable, subject to Bagley Clean. I'm not saying bring in all of your commission members and do it all at once, but like other stakeholders, highly encourage that. The other thing that Dwan and I talked about is that for some of these working groups, one of the things we're thinking about is trying to start meetings earlier. So I know in the past, we've sort of, staff has come in kind of with a memo, partly drafted with ideas already set. And then sometimes the working group's like kind of hitting the ground a little bit like, wait, I may not necessarily agree with this. So one of the things we talked about, sort of to your point, Will, is like having that initial meeting where just the working group and staff kind of get on the same page. And one thing that we can do is, you know, when we talk to the full commission, and, you know, is we can tell people, like, we're telling you these work plans. We encourage you, if there's one that you're interested in, stay in contact. They're always welcome to come to our rules committee meetings and make public comment, right? And that's a good place for us to then kind of have these discussions and air it out. And I understand the concern is that by the time it comes to rules committee, you know, people are already kind of decided, the working group sort of vetted this, et cetera. I do understand that. And, you know, if you on your working group think that there's a particular person, you know, we can sort of work through with maybe Brady or with Dwan, if you think it's worth having someone like come talk to you, or some way in which they can provide input. Because like, I know like Catherine has views on like the RFP process, right? She's not on that working group. So I do think there's a way to, we can think about a way to facilitate those comments without violating Bagley Keene. And ultimately, I think the public comment period at the rules committee meetings is the open and transparent way to give that feedback. And if we have to like go back and redo it, that's what we have to do. I don't know if I know that's not totally what you want to hear, but I'm trying to address and have thought about that concern as well.
Well, there is
So
one more option, and
Yeah.
I'll use the IOTA reserve policy as an example, is that, you know, we had previewed that recommendation at the last commission meeting, and this is the reason why that working group is going back to the drawing board a little bit, and it wasn't received that favorably. And so I had asked a couple of the commissioners that were like, okay, just express kind of concern about that working group's feedback, to go to the working group meeting and share that. Unfortunately, I couldn't, so I ended up sharing the feedback, but we can do it like on a one-off. So if Will and Jim, if there's somebody from the commission that you think's opinion would be valuable or could help you, or even from the rules committee, let us know, and I can make sure that it doesn't violate Bagley Keene, because I know, like, I have the roster and I can figure that out pretty easily. Then we can invite them to come to one of your working group meetings, as a kind of an in-between.
would that kind of get at what you're concerned about, Will, or is there?
I think, I mean, I think it definitely it's responsive to what I'm concerned about. I think in my ideal world, we would just say we're calling a meeting where there's not going to be any action items. It's just a discussion on a particular topic, like the reserve policy, or the RFP. I know that Chris had a lot of thoughts on that when we were going through it in partnership grants. And it's like, boy, I would love, before everybody sat down and they got feedback from LAC and they've written all the memos, to hear from people and allow that opportunity for feedback prior to all that work being done. And so that was my initial thought, is like, it would be great if we had it an hour in January somewhere to talk
For
about.
every topic or just?
Not
What are
for
you
every
thinking?
topic, but right. And I know that if it was for every topic, we I'd be tarred and feathered. But for
It's not
certain big,
that, it's just, I think we're just trying to, there's a tension between trying to get it done efficiently and also trying to make sure we get people, like everyone who's got interests and like philosophies on this, like engaged, right? And so that's, if you're talking like, you want an hour where anyone who has ideas on anything on a particular rule, like has their opportunity, like a sort of public or the federal agencies do, a request for public comment before they start a rulemaking, right? Where they say, we're thinking about putting in a rule about, the one I'm familiar with is climate change disclosures. We want to hear from everybody who has thoughts on climate change disclosures, and they get all these comments in, and then they use those to then like formulate the rule, and then it goes back out for public comment after. Is that kind of, because I don't think we can do it just commission specific, but yeah.
well, yeah, I think it's valuable to ask, like that public comment period and allowing people to get feedback is really important. But I was thinking more in a collaboration standpoint, where I asked a question, for example, at the beginning of the meeting related to the public comment period. Catherine jumped in, you jumped in, and I think what we ended up with was a way better understanding and a way clearer direction of where we wanted to go by having the conversation. And it's a little hard when it's just, oh, hey, you know what? I think it should be, maybe we should do the reserve policy this way.
Right.
And someone obviously says, well, a problem with that is XYZ. And I'd be like, oh, yes, you're right. Well, what if we shifted it? And I think it's just the act of collaboration and opening a forum for collaboration before we get to the final meeting where the pressure's on and all the work has already been done. Does that make sense?
I hear you. I do. I tend to think of the rules committee meeting as that vetting of the final rule, because we've often not passed them because of the questions and people sort of having that opportunity. But let me let Dwan go. She's had her hand raised. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I could suggest maybe an in-between. So Jim and Will, if you want to do this for your law school topic, guys, just looking at the calendar, your topic isn't until June. So say you wanted to carve out, and Erica, if you're amenable to this, maybe in the February meeting, we can agendize it if you wanted to bring something back. We limit it because we have those other topics to like a 15, 20, maybe 30-minute discussion, and then you guys can float out ideas or ask for feedback. My concern about adding another committee meeting is the work of this committee is really heavy already. We have 5 meetings. I think we're the only committee that has 5 meetings at 3 hours, and each of our meetings are intense. Eligibility has a lot of meetings, but they're like sometimes an hour. They're sometimes not involved in intense. And I do want to be mindful of everybody's time. And some of you are on several committees. So to add on beyond 5 meetings feels like a lot, but maybe we can make it work within our 5 meetings because they're 3 hours. And maybe then if there's a working group that wants to kind of take advantage of that, they can let me know. And if not, then we go through the kind of the regular process. So like if it's law school and you and Jim, Will and Jim, you guys want, then maybe we can just agendize it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to address it going forward. Just try and fit it in the meeting. I think the big one I was thinking of was the reserve policy. I feel like people have a lot of strong feelings on that. And the more we can collaborate as opposed to coming back and being like, hey, you guys got to go back to the drawing board. I know you've done a lot of work.
Well, that's why for that one, that's why I already Lena's on that, so she knows. I shared the feedback because I got the feedback directly that's not kind of the direction, some of the commissioners wanted to go in, and that's why they're going back to the drawing board. So,
Okay. Well, I welcome feedback on this. If people have ideas on how we can allow that collaboration to be meaningful early on in the process. I think the earlier we get it in and the earlier I hear from everybody who has so much experience and knowledge and understanding. And I have this small little like experience, and it's so incredibly helpful. Even people outside of this committee who might just have the right understanding and the right suggestion. I don't know how to do that with Bagley Keene. I think
Well,
my
that's why
idea-
we had tried to integrate some of the non-committee members, but honestly, it wasn't working.
No, exactly, right. It becomes too confusing. I guess I don't have a good solution. I would really love if somebody did, where whether it was an ad hoc meeting and no one was required to attend unless they were interested, or some other idea so that we can keep that loop going, because it's really helpful. I found when we've come, like with the complaints process, when we came to the committee meeting, I was like, oh my gosh, that was brilliant. Wish I'd thought of that, 3 months ago.
Eric, I just want to do a quick time check because we're 20 minutes over
sorry.
now.
I know we're over. I didn't realize it was supposed to be 1 hour. I would have shut up more. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
All of which I would say is like, your points are well taken, and we can definitely give some thought to it. And like I said, I think each working group can be very creative. So if that's something that would work for your working group, you want to do that, like you, me and Jim are on a working group together. We can talk about that. Like, I'm not opposed to it as an idea, as long as we are complying with Bagley Keene. I'm not sure I'm at this point, without a clear, efficient solution, ready to impose that on everybody's working groups. And then we can, because we do have a lot of opportunity for feedback, and it's slow at times and inefficient, but if we can
I
focus
wouldn't
another
want
way,
to.
we can think about it.
Don't impose. I just thought for certain big
Yeah.
ticket items. That's all. Putting it out there.
Yeah. And you should definitely think about it for yours. We can work around it on the schedules. All right. We've kept everybody late. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to make the request for Dawn. If you want to make any changes, please get her your answer within a week. After that, we're kind of set. So just FYI. Thank you guys. Look forward to working this year.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Okay.
great holiday. Hopefully everyone has 3 days off this week as well.
Yeah, and stay
All right.
safe.
Okay, you too.
It's going around. I've been so
Yes.
sick. Oh my
Oh,
God.
take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.